All right, everybody, welcome into our fantasy recap show, kind of draft recap show. If you're with us in our football league, you kind of know we do one similar there. We are doing one for our baseball league here. I got my welcoming in the commissioner of the league, Kyle Carboni. How you doing?
Doing well tonight.
You,
Ready to get going. Ready to roast some peeps.
who would have thought we were going to be here too, right? I mean, who would have thought we were even going to have a season, and now we're here reviewing fantasy teams, you
It,
know?
it's been a roller coaster. I mean, there's been cautious optimism, there's been pessimism, and it's everywhere in between.
I
But
know.
looking pretty good. I like the way the testing's been sounding lately. I'm liking some of the results of what I've heard, so I'm pretty optimistic at this point. I'm excited for the season to get started.
For sure, couldn't have said it better. And we're 2 days away from the season starting. Got some good matchups on opening night. But
Yeah.
we are here to talk about the draft and talk about your teams. We're going to spend a few minutes on each team, talking about the value and all that kind of stuff. But before we get to that, Kyle, first year running it, auction draft. What do we think?
From what I've heard, early returns are a lot of people enjoyed it a lot. I know there was like a lot of skepticism going into it. A lot of people didn't know what to expect, and I know like 80% of the league didn't do like any research going into it.
Yeah,
So if you were one of those people, you don't feel alone because I had people messaging me like, "Yeah, I didn't hardly do anything," or like most people had never done one before.
for
So
sure,
I'm
for
kind
sure.
of glad we got this one out of the way, and then we can start the dynasty next year, and excited for that.
And the new site, new kind of thing, different things to look at. I think the site is pretty well underway. Some cool stuff you can look at there. I think the draft room was pretty smooth, all that kind of stuff. Other than a couple hiccups here and there, I thought it
Yeah.
went well. And early, let me ask you this: early to me, as you could tell by me not getting anybody, a little bit of a strategy, a little bit of not.
Yeah.
But to me, early, it seemed like guys were going higher pricing than I thought. And maybe it's again never really done an auction draft before. You're more familiar with them. Is that normal, or were you noticing? Wow, these guys are overbidding a little bit.
I actually thought the opposite.
Did
If
you?
you look,
Okay.
if you look at what some of the values are with some of the guys that went early, especially
Yeah.
the pitching, compared to what some of the other guys went late are, it was absurd. I got to tip my hat to Christopher. Christopher's my cousin. He jumped out and threw out Lindor first there, and he got
Right.
an absolute steal for
He
Lindor for
did.
29. And it was like you look at some of the guys that went later, and it's like, Chris Bryant went for 27.
Yep.
Charlie Blackmon went for 22. Joey Gallo went for
Crazy.
23. And it's like he got Lindor for 29.
Right.
And I think same thing with the pitching. I thought that for as hitter wise, I think Lindor was probably the best steal there. I was thrilled when I got DeGrom for 31.
Oh,
I
sure.
think I think there was a little discount there when it comes
Darvish price,
to,
man.
yeah, the same price as Darvish. I think there's a little discount. People are worried about the injury, but and then it's just like that. Where I thought things ramped up was everything in the middle.
Yeah.
It seemed like everything from like just or Shane Bieber, I almost said Justin Bieber, Shane Bieber to even like past Kimbrel, Charlie Morton, Jose Barrios, like all those
Sure.
guys go in like the $24 to $26 range. And it was like the guys that jumped on the pitching early and got some of those Shane Biebers and Clevengers and Flaherty's for 25. And then we saw later in the draft, even guys, Frankie Montas went for 14, Bauer
Yep.
21, Barrios 26, Glasnow 20,
I think even a guy like
Soroka
Woodruff,
19.
Fontana for $10. Like that's not bad at all.
Yeah, that one.
Guys
Yeah,
like
that was a
that.
good value.
I think, and that's something I noticed too. Is later in the draft, and Dana's done auction drafts as well. I was talking to Dana and Dave during the draft, and he goes, "There's going to be a point where people have spent so much money that they're going
Yeah,
to start getting cautious." And
I
I think that kind of happened at a certain point where guys are being had at prices you weren't going to expect because people kind of blew
yeah.
their load, if you forgive
Hmm.
my term there, but like they blew their load a little early, and they're like, shit,
Yeah,
I got to hold on to my money a little bit, you know.
yeah, exactly. So it's all about getting momentum and stuff. I knew when it was time to stay away from guys. I could tell when the market was
Right.
getting hot and guys were heating up, and it's just you kind of got to learn to stay away and whatever it was.
And
But I
before
think
we
that,
go to team to team, you don't have to give away your strategy. But for this being my first auction draft, I noticed there is some strategy involved in terms of who you put up. Maybe you don't
yeah,
even want that player.
yeah,
Maybe, for example, Dave's favorite player is Josh Bell. I'm like, maybe if you put up a Josh Bell now, people will stay away and go, Josh Bell. Hell, I'm waiting for Alonzo. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah.
the thing I
Oh,
like
no
about the
doubt.
auction draft is there's so much strategy involved of like,
Mhm.
well, like for example, Peter, I think was trying to drive the price up of Schwarber on me because he
Mhm.
knows I like
Yeah.
Schwarber, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of strategy there. And speak to that for a second. Like, you don't necessarily have to give away what you did, but like,
No,
is there that type of mindset when you're doing an auction draft?
you definitely learn some tips and tricks. I know at one point I was looking at rosters late in the draft. I knew that there was a team out there that only had a second baseman to fill, and I was tired of them driving up prices on me. So I just threw
Right.
out the best second baseman, knowing that they were going to bid on them just to get them out, and
Sure.
then I could claim my $1 players at the end once I had no competition left. You know, throwing out the White Sox and Cubs players, I was obviously a
Smart.
great
Yeah.
strategy considering
Yeah.
how much more they went for. Luis Robert and Eloy both in the
Oh
mid
my God.
20s.
Throw out some Chargers players if we ever do a full auction
Yeah,
draft. You already
exactly.
know how that's gonna happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
And I just like how there's no excuse for not getting the guys that you want, no excuse
sure.
for not getting the guys you want. You know, there's nothing stopping you from getting Kyle Schwarber, from getting Mike Trout, from getting, if
Right.
there's a guy that you
Pay
really
whatever
like.
price.
That's my favorite part about auction drafting.
Oh, sure, no doubt about it. And I think, after doing it, and it went about as long as I thought. I know I threw somewhere some jokes in there about how long it was
Yeah.
taking, but took
Yeah.
about as long as I thought. And as we said, after next year, once we're able to have some keepers, it won't ever take that long again. So,
Yeah.
something to think about there and kind of get our feet wet with that. So,
Yeah.
any last
Personally,
thought?
how do you think that your draft went according to your plan? Did it fall off the rails or did it go kind of how you thought it would?
There's part of me that honestly just wanted to see if I could go in there like back to back to bat and just get three nasty top guys. But then the
Mm-hmm.
more I kind of sat there and looked at the prices, because I was on Fangraphs looking at what the value they said they were worth, and all these guys were jumping
Yeah.
higher than their value. So
Yeah.
having never done an auction draft, I'm like, all right, these guys are spending a little bit more than I thought they should be. So if I was, and I think I said it during the draft, I was the last player to get a player by a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but
Yeah.
I was the first one to get done. And I think at
Yeah.
one point
That was wild.
I had six players needed left, and I had like $90. Well, some people still needed 11, and they had
Yeah. Yeah.
$45.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
was
again,
definitely one of them.
yeah, and some part of my strategy, kind of what you were saying, I didn't jump up the price too much, but there was a point in the draft, almost every single player, I immediately dropped 15 on,
Mm-hmm.
just to try to jump that price up a little bit. But
Yep.
in terms of how it went for me, we'll talk when we get to my team. I'll speak on it more, but I think I got a pretty balanced team. And one of the things I was going to kind of hit on this year is in a 60 game season. I kind of mentioned this to you in a chat earlier. I think, don't get me wrong, Trout's still the best player. But in a 162 game season, you see that separation
Yeah.
more. And in a 60 game season, you're not going to see that as much.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if having a more balanced team this year
Yeah.
is the play. I don't know.
You know what? There's a lot of merit to that. And because with everything going on with COVID, if you put all your eggs in one basket, in the Mike Trout basket, and Mike Trout gets COVID or doesn't return after his wife is due,
Sure.
you're kind of SOL.
Yeah.
That's $55 you're not getting back.
Right.
So I understand that. In regards to my draft, it was kind of, I got like 8 of the guys that I knew I wanted.
Sure.
But I had planned my whole draft strategy thinking that people were going to live in that mid tier. I knew I was going to go stars and scrubs. So I jumped on Acuna right away. I jumped
Yeah.
on DeGrom. And I was fully intending on getting Trey Turner. That was my whole draft
Okay.
strategy. Is I was getting Acuna, I was getting Turner, and I was just going to ignore steals the rest of the draft and just
Sure,
be
why
done
not?
because
Yeah.
that would set me up.
You're guaranteed
Well,
almost middle of the pack in steals with
yeah,
Trey Turner right there, if not
yeah,
higher. Yeah.
exactly. And then so I stayed away from Lindor at 29. Little did I know that Turner was going to go for 39.
Yeah.
And then I
A little
lost
bit of
out on
buyer's
that.
remorse there.
Yeah, and so I just wasn't going to go up that high, and it kind of threw everything off. I
Right.
got Correa, who I like a lot. I think he's a top 5 shortstop in the league. He's just never really stayed healthy. If he can just stay healthy for 60 games, I think it's
Right.
going to be diamond in the
No
rough.
trash cans this year, though.
Yeah, but I think if you look at some of that data, it's a little misleading on how much it actually helps some of
Right.
those players and
Agreed.
who was actually using it.
And a lot of us have played baseball before. Sometimes that would almost to me be a distraction. Like, oh
Mhm,
crap, I
exactly.
know the face. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So
Mhm.
I've even heard some players say like, no, I didn't use it because literally like it actually lost my focus. But that's another subject for another
Exactly.
day. Any last thoughts on the draft before we
No,
start pulling off the teams?
let's go ahead and jump in.
All right. Well, I think my screen is good to go here. We are going to start with the top team here, and that is Acuna Moncada. And I'm still not totally.
That's going to be Eddie Mazer.
Okay, Eddie. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. Still not getting used to the team names here. It says his name.
Yeah. Eddie
But-
Mazer's friend of Tyler's, friend of
Oh, yeah.
ours.
Went to
Went to
school with
Hampshire High
him, yep.
School with us.
Sure. All right, let's look at his team. You said we're gonna, like I said, the format we're kind of going on with today, guys, is kind of best value, biggest reach, and we're gonna kind of talk about some strengths or weaknesses of the team, and then give a grade on them, and then we'll do who we think's kind of the top 2, 3 teams maybe at the end is what we're gonna roll
Mhm.
for. So
Yeah.
start us off, Kyle. Looking at Eddie's team, what was kind of a good value you think he got?
So I really like the value he got on Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz for $13. A lot of people stay away from him, and to be honest, I just completely forgot about him come draft time because I forgot to look at guys who were only eligible at DH. I only did my positions. So when he got put on the board, nominated, I go, "Oh wait, Nelson Cruz." I had no idea what his value was, and I think for $13, it's an absolute steal. He's a pretty average, pretty relatively above average on base percentage guy,
Sure.
and he's projected for 14 home runs, 38 RBIs, one of the best contact hitters in the league. And his StatCast numbers are off the charts. It was like for him and Pete Alonso last year were the two guys that just was off the charts when it comes to some of those StatCast guys. So he's a protected guy. I know he's getting up there with age, but he's only got a DH anymore, so he's only got a hit. And I think he's going to put up really good numbers this year in that Twins lineup.
Yeah, and you think too, like he's very reminiscent of like an Edwin Encarnacion over the 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of forgotten about, but he always
Yeah.
hits home runs, gets RBIs, and does what he needs to do. And Nelson Cruz in that Twins lineup where they already hit a ton of home runs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what kind of damage they're going to do this year? Now,
Exactly.
before I move on to my value, is there any that's the thing though, is there's a little bit of a caveat to it. He has to be in that utility slot.
Yes.
Which kind of hurts a little bit of flexibility wise
Yep.
when you want some depth. Is that an issue to you, or you still like that depth there?
You know, at that point in the draft, I had both my utility spots open, and I'm really kicking myself I didn't go after him a little bit harder.
Right.
I think in a league that has 2 utility spots, I like it. If it was a league with only 1 utility spot and you had to play him there, I wouldn't
Sure.
like it as much. But I think he's got plenty of lineup eligibility, especially when he's got guys that eligible at multiple positions like Tommy Edman there and Fletcher.
For sure.
He can move guys around.
My best value for Eddie, honestly, I'll say is Corey Seager at shortstop. I think I saw him pop up randomly late in the draft, and I know he's had some injury issues as of late, but even going off last year, 19 home runs, 87 RBIs. I think in a weird way, Seager's been that forgotten player in the Dodgers lineup, and people remember more the Bellingers, the Mookie Betts, the Justin Turners. Seager's still a very young shortstop that I think can get it done, and scheduled for 8 home runs, 31 RBIs, a solid 350 clip on base percentage at $12.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
He's a
argue.
guy I like a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about my team later, where buys might have been a little bit more expensive than I wanted him to be, but
Yeah.
I've seen some shortstops go for $12 to $14. We'll get to the guy who got Marcus Semien later. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but guys like that, and I think Seager is one of those guys where you look at where he got him, the price he paid, and you're like, wow, that was not bad value there at all.
Is he an injury guy?
He can. Yep, he's been out, and that's the issue. He has
As
been
you were
out
looking to draft, do you ignore injury risk guys more in the draft, or do you spend more on them knowing they have less likelihood of getting hurt? Because it can kind of go both ways in a shortened season.
It sure can. There is no doubt about that. It's tough. I would give him a chance at it because arguably you could say the same with Correa, right? I mean, Correa's had some injury issues in the past too, so it's tough. And I don't know. I think it's a case by case basis a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think I bought into some of the more injury prone guys. We'll get to my team later, but I took guys like Correa and guys like Rich Hill, knowing that hey, if I can just get through 60
I saw
games,
you get Hill late.
they can
Yeah.
be healthy for 60 games. They're going to be great. And then I can drop them if they're not. If Hill hurts something in his shoulder, he's going to be on the waiver wire, and I'm picking up someone else. So I kind of ignored some of the injury, or I still bought into some of the injury risk guys.
Oh, for sure.
Right,
yeah.
Let's move on to our biggest reaches for Eddie. What do you got?
Biggest reach, kind of looking at this team a little bit. I'm going between the pitchers and the hitters here. I don't know if it's tough. I would say I think Trevor Bauer at $21 was a little expensive. I kind of saw his name jumping up a little bit. 21 doesn't sound bad, but he was kind of borderline. I don't want to say awful last year, but his numbers kind of went down the shitter when he went to Cincinnati. And I'm wondering, like, wow, $21 for Trevor Bauer. That seemed pretty expensive when he got Kluber, who again injured last year, but if he bounces back at $17, like I just felt like that price got driven up on Trevor Bauer a little bit, and it might have been a little more than my liking. I was kind of surprised he went as high as he did. I think people are still going off his name and that one great season he had in Cleveland. What's your take?
Trevor Bauer is a guy that I like. From what I've heard, he does a lot of tinkering. So he's kind of in his own head. He's very outspoken on social media if you're on Twitter.
Right.
But Trevor Bauer is a guy that he could lead the league in strikeouts this year. They're actually even talking about him pitching every fourth day. So
Oh wow.
that $21 could pay off on investment if he gets back to form. He stops tinkering with his mechanics and stuff. I think the potential for him is still there. I'm going to actually go a different way. I think the overpay came in some of his power guys. I look at Eloy Jimenez for 26, and I look at Pete Alonso for 34. With Eloy, obviously you're paying that White Sox tax. You're going to
Yep.
have to pay a premium for those guys. And, he obviously is hitting the cover off the ball here in spring training.
Yeah.
But we'll see if he's worth $26. I mean, you're approaching almost JD Martinez range. That's what you're expecting from him
Sure.
for that kind of money. And then Pete Alonso, I think we got the best case scenario from Pete Alonso last year.
Oh,
And
you
I
think he's
don't
gonna
know
hit
if
his floor a little bit more after, huh?
I'm a big sophomore slump guy. I still think that Pete Alonso is going to hit for a 40 home run pace, but I don't think that he's a 280 hitter. I think he's more of a 260 hitter, and I don't think the on base percentage is going to be where you think it's going to be. And I think once pitchers kind of start to figure these guys out some more, these sophomores, the second year guys, I think they start to slow down a little bit, and you don't have time to kind of adjust throughout a 162 game season. The pitchers have had all season to plan for him, and he's not going to have a lot of time to adjust to it.
Right. No, agreed. And when you see other guys or other first basemen, I know he's had COVID, but he should be expected back soon. Like a Freddie Freeman, go for cheaper or around the same price. Freddie
Yeah.
Freeman, you could argue, is the best first baseman in baseball, and
Yes.
I'll take Freeman at 31 over 34 of
Of
Alonso
course,
any day of
behind
the week.
Bellinger.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. No doubt
Yeah, but
about it.
Freeman went for 34. He went for the
Yeah,
same
okay,
price.
so 34. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I personally, I mean, you can't go wrong. Alonso had a great year last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a huge misstep, but Freddie Freeman is, I think, the best first baseman in baseball. It's hard to pass that up. But yeah, I think Alonso and Eloy, we're gonna see a lot of guys I've noticed around the 25 to 29 range that you go, that guy went for 27 and that guy went for 25.
Yes.
Like there's a kind of a lot of the guys in that range, and I can see where you're going with Eloy there in that case. But overall, draft grade, unless there's something else you wanted to look at.
So I'm going to give a few thoughts on overall what I think about Eddie's team. So with Eddie, what I'm looking at is his pitching staff. His pitching staff is going to have a high ERA. He's got a lot of guys like Bauer. He's not a sub-4 ERA guy. Zach Gallen, who knows what to expect? He's a guy I like a lot, but he's so young. Kluber's going to need a bounce back year, and you're going to get hammered with ERA with Quintana. Yeah. Edwin Diaz is going to be a 4 ERA closer. So I don't love the ERA he's getting, but he should get plenty of strikeouts from those. He's got average power, but a lot of his hitters get on base a lot. Juan Soto has got a 400 on base percentage. Biggio walks a lot. Seager walks a lot. Eloy, Tommy Pham, these guys are all good on base percentage guys. So I think he'll be mid to high in the pack and on base percentage, but that ERA is going to bring him down a little bit. As far as a draft grade for Eddie goes, I'm going to give him a B-. Okay. I think it's a middle of the pack team. There's nothing that really stands out in regards to his power or his pitching. I think he's just kind of middle of the pack. Is there anything that catches your eye about his team?
I'm going to echo a lot of the same things you do. I think Edwin Diaz, going a little bit off name recognition, but last year was pretty awful. He wasn't good. But he should get some saves in that department. My thing with Eddie's team is I think there is a chance if we get Kershaw, if we get Kluber back, that they could really be the spearhead leaders of that team. I don't know what type of Kluber we're going to get this year. We'll see. But I've noticed, and I don't know, this is a little bit of a sidetrack here. I've noticed a lot of relievers projected for higher ERAs than I would have expected. Is it because of the shortened season and one bad outing is going to skyrocket your ERA?
Yeah.
Some closers might pitch 25 innings this year. If you get rocked for a 4-inning game or a 4-run inning, your ERA, you're not going to get it under 3 the rest of the year.
Yep.
Is that why we're seeing higher than normal ERAs on projections?
I think you would have to assume that. And I think in the same vein, you could have relievers who have sub-1 ERAs this year just because they get hot for 20 innings. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. But offensively, I actually think I like his offense a little bit more than you do. I think he's got some power with Cruz and Soto. Eloy's got some pop. Obviously Alonso. So I think he's good there. Like you said, decent on base percentage, guys. Soto's going to help a lot in that regard. I'm curious to see how Verdugo does in Boston. I'm going to give
Mhm.
him overall a B grade. I actually think his team's a little bit above average, a little bit above middle of the pack, where he could be in that kind of competition there. One of the sleepers for him, I think, is Daniel Murphy. I think hitting in Colorado, he's getting a little bit older. Hit 80 RBIs, 13 home runs last year. I'm curious if he can bring that average back up. But
I don't think he's going
overall,
to play every day.
yeah, that's true too. He might not play every day. Um, but overall, I'd give Eddie about a B for a draft grade. Not bad. Not a bad start there. You
All
want to
right.
move on to the next team?
Yeah.
Team D-Luz is who? Do we know who that is? Doesn't say his name.
That is going to be David. That's going to be Justin's brother-in-law.
Oh, okay, sweet.
And Justin is our friend from high school as well.
Yep.
That's going to be his brother-in-law.
I'm sure as the years go on, we'll get to know each other more and more with how
Yep.
active our groups are. First glance, looking at the team, spent big dollars on some hitters, then spent little dollars on other hitters. His team's very odd, where 24, 23, all that, and then he's got some pretty cheap hitters as well. Pitching staff spent some money on some guys, a lot more money on his pitching staff. Overall, best value. What are we looking at?
Best value, I really like Luke Voigt for $4. I think he has a chance to lead the majors in home runs this year, especially hitting in Yankee Stadium. He's going to have first base all to himself. He's going to play every day. And if you look at his numbers from last year, they were pretty decent. He's another StatCast hero. I really like that value for $4, and I wish I had an extra $4 at the end of the draft to scoop him up, because he was definitely somebody I was eyeing for my utility spot. I just couldn't scoop him up in time.
Yeah, I mean, how can you go wrong with Void at $4? And when he had to play when there was a lot of injuries last year, put in some very, very solid time in New York. I'm gonna go. Interestingly, I thought about getting this guy late, but I actually, and when we get to my team, I'll mention it. I needed to find someone that could steal bases. I could not go for this guy anymore. I like Franmil Reyes from
He's
Cleveland.
great. Yep.
I like him a lot. He hit a lot of home runs last year. I kind of think not too many of the. Do you know what I mean? When casual baseball fans really know about him yet.
Mhm.
I like Franmil Reyes a lot. I know he's not going to hit for the highest of average, but he's going to have some pop. His on-base percentage might not always be the greatest, but I'm expecting big things from him. And if Cleveland wants to be good this year, when a lot of people are expecting the White Sox and the Twins to kind of take hold in that division, I like at $10.
Yeah.
I can't complain at Franmil Reyes.
There's about 10 guys who can conceivably lead the league in home runs this year, and it's a group of Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge,
Yes.
Cody Bellinger, Ronald Acuna. Franmil Reyes is in that list. It would not surprise me if in 60 games he hits 21 home runs and leads the league in home runs. Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
I think a lot more people are going to know his name by the end of the year for sure. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I'll kick it off with the biggest overvalue. I actually don't mind too much the Flaherty at 30. If he wanted to go out and get his starter, go out and do that. I'll say Tatis at 31 and I like Tatis. Tatis at 31 was a little much. Tatis is, I think, going to be a stud in Major League Baseball. Might have a better year this year. The Padres should be getting better. But in terms of, I don't know, he's going to get you a few steals here and there. On base is okay. It just seemed like 31 did seem like a little much. You could argue Vlad underperformed last year, and 23 is a little much. Mm-hmm. Kevin Newman, I think he spent a lot on his big hitters. Yeah. And because of that, when we get to weaknesses, I might as well get it out of the way now. I think his lineup is his weakness.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So with Fernando Tatis, 31 I think would be about value for him, maybe a bit much. And you look at our league format, and especially with rotisserie, you got to really value those stolen bases. And before he got hurt last year, he was hitting like 330, and he was tearing the cover off the ball, swiping bags. So if you look at that sample size, what he did last year, he could be the number 5 fantasy. He could be the number 1 fantasy player this year for all we know. Sure. He's got that kind of talent, but he strikes out a lot, and he's going to be another one of those sophomore slump guys that I think if he gets off to a slow start, he doesn't walk a lot. He's a big swinger. That's why he's strikes out a lot.
21 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's bound to be a lot of regression there. I think that Kevin Newman for 24 is way overvalued, though. Kevin Newman, I think he's like more of a $5 player. I mean, 4 home runs, 6 stolen bases. I think in a 162 game season, he's like a 15-15 guy. He doesn't walk a lot. His on base percentage isn't great. There's not a lot of great options at second base, but $24 for Kevin Newman on a bad Pittsburgh team. That's a big overpay for me.
For sure, no doubt about it. I would agree with that. But in the same breath, if we want to go value again, we could argue same with Nelson Cruz, Edwin Encarnacion at $8. You know,
Mhm. Yeah,
so that's
decent
another
value if he plays every day.
if he plays every day, correct. With Jose Abreu and some other guys, they might be trying to get in at the DH spot for sure.
Mhm.
I kind of said my weakness. I think the lineup. I think he's kind of missing a star in a sense. I think he's missing that guy that you can count on day in and day out. Maybe Tatis can fit into that role. Does Vlad show more pop this year? I think is a big question mark. But if Vlad doesn't, and if Tatis is okay, Reyes is going to have some pop. Voit might have some pop. But overall, I think we're missing something here in the lineup. Danny Jansen, I know there's not many great hitting catchers at all. He's only projected for 80 at bats. Who knows if he's going to start? I know he only got him for $1, but I think the lineup is going to be his weakness this year. His strength, I think, is his pitching. I think I'm totally fine with him getting Castillo at 25. I'm actually a pretty big Castillo fan. Flaherty, I like. Robbie Ray's a strikeout machine.
Mhm.
Blake Snell might bounce back this year. Julio Urias has been a prospect for so long, and it seems like in that Dodger system, and he's still only 23 years old. I actually really like him at $6.
Mhm.
Josh Hader, one of the best closers in baseball. I think you're going to see him be one of the few guys that could possibly have under a 1 ERA. Overall, I like his rotation a lot. I think
Yeah.
he's got one of the best in the league.
All right. I am going to echo that. I think that David has the best rotation and the best pitching staff in the entire league, and it is
Nice.
not close. It is not close. He goes 5 deep with the starters. He's got a bench full of pitchers, and he's
They
got
all
the
strike
number one
people out.
closer in the
Yeah.
league, and they all strike people out. That's right. So, David, if you're listening to me, what you need to do is you need to shop Josh Hader right now. Josh Hader, because he is a top strikeout closer. You do not need any more strikeouts. You got Castillo, you got Flaherty, you got Robbie Ray,
Yeah.
you got Blake Snell, you got Urias. You're going to come in first place in strikeouts without Josh Hader. Find yourself a team that you can get a second tier reliever, and you need to fill an outfield spot because your outfield leaves a lot to be desired. Right now, you got Brian Anderson and Stephen Piscotty both starting in your outfield, and both those guys are borderline bench guys. You know, those are almost waiver wire guys. I think if you could trade Hader for a really good outfield bat, somebody like like a Rosario or something like that, I think it could do a lot for your offense. Overall, I think your biggest weakness also is your on-base percentage. I'm looking at some of these on-base percentage guys like Danny Jansen and Franmil Reyes,
Yeah.
Will
Some low
Myers,
guys.
Piscotty, and I think that's a glaring weakness on who's going to kind of carry you in that on-base percentage category. I think it's going to hurt you down the stretch. So overall, I do think that there's some gaps there. I think you overpaid for a few mid-level guys big time. I like your pitching staff a lot, but I think there's a trade or two that you need to turn around in order to kind of get your team to where it needs to be. So unfortunately, David, I'm going to kind of hammer you a little bit. I gave you a D+. That is my worst draft grade for anyone. I think that I think the other thing was, I think with some of the guys he took in the reserve drafts on those pitchers, he's got plenty of depth. I like it, but I think he needs to trade some pitching to get himself some hitting.
Wow, man, I wasn't expecting you laid down the hammer on him.
Yeah, I came in a little hot there. Sorry, David.
And here's the thing, and this is the thing with the format, right? Because we kind of debated about rotisserie head to head, this and that. If this was head to head, he might be able to carry 6 categories a week.
Yeah,
You know,
no
he
doubt.
might be able to carry 6 pitching categories, but with rotisserie forcing you to be adequate at least more than half the categories, that lineup's going to really struggle for him. I gave him a C because I do agree. I think his pitching staff is right up there. I think it's it's like you said, one of the best, if not the best in the league. But you can't be one way great and one way the other.
Yeah.
You can't in rotisserie. It's going to cost you in the end, and I agree with you on that one, no doubt about it. So I give him a C. Kyle gives him a D+. Wow, he ain't going to like that one. But let's move on. We'll move on to the third team here. My computer's taking a second to load up. We are going to go to Team T-Pain. Clever little name there. How about that? And that is Tyler Penny, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So Tyler Penny joined our football league last year, first time. Glad to have him on, active user. Let's just get right off the bat here. Best value. I started with last team. I'll let you start with this team. Best value on Tyler Penny's team during the draft.
It's Cody Bellinger, and it's not close. Cody Bellinger for 38, I think, is an absolute steal. I would have probably paid about 52 for him. At that point, I forget what my team was looking like, but I think, and I was also concerned. I heard rumors about a swing change from him in the offseason, so I got a little scared off there, and I knew I needed some stolen bases. But Cody Bellinger for 38, I thought was incredible value.
Right, I'm gonna switch it up just to do it after, just to be a little different, because I would do agree. Cody Bellinger at 38. When you saw what some of the other guys are going for, he again does a little bit of everything. The only thing he's not going to do is get 30 steals, but in terms of on base, home runs, RBIs, runs scored, all of that, he is going to get the job done there. My value for Tyler is actually going to be, I think, Chris Bryant. Because when I got Javi Baez at around the same price, and I think Chris Bryant, and this is something I spoke to some of my other buddies about in the league when we were talking during the draft. Do you give any credence to guys that are streaky? Guys like a Bryce Harper that could hit 15 home runs in 2 weeks. Chris Bryant, it does, but Chris Bryant is going to be one of those, either he's going to be fantastic for Tyler, or he's going to be awful, because when we know as Cubs fans, when Chris Bryant hits a home run, you know it's going to be followed up by about 3 or 4 more over the course of the next week. So I think Chris Bryant is one of those guys to look out for, who again could have 20 home runs this year, could have 6. But at $27, I don't mind that. Another one that I like quite a bit. How did he get arguably this in the top 3 hitting catchers for $14? I know catchers don't play as much, but $14 for Willie Contreras? That's not bad at all.
Yeah, that's a decent value. I was going $1 catcher all the way. I just didn't think it was worth it, because they only get half the at bat. But yeah,
totally.
But I'd
still
good value.
$14. That's not bad at all. I'll start off with the biggest reach on my end. I'll just flat out say it. I think I don't know. I think Zach Greinke was a little pricey. If that
he was what I wrote down as well.
Yeah, if he's going to be your ace, and when we look at his rotation in a second, he went really high in Greinke. I actually think he got a good price on Soroka. Soroka's not a strikeout guy.
Yeah.
I don't hate that price, but Greinke has kind of shown a little bit lately of showing his age. Still a solid pitcher, but he's not that strikeout pitcher anymore. Maybe being in Houston helps out a little bit, but I think 27, and when you see the other weaknesses a little bit in the rotation, that scares me a little bit that he overpaid on that pitcher. I think he could have spread that out a little bit more. Thoughts?
Yeah, he waited way too long to get his first pitcher, because having Zach Greinke as your ace is not a recipe for success. I take a lot of umbrage with his rotation, because in his rotation, he doesn't have a single pitcher that strikes anybody out. All of his pitchers are sub-1 strikeout inning guys. Yep. They're all, Greinke, Minaya, Martinez, Soroka. Those guys don't strike anyone out. You're going to come in last place in strikeouts because you don't have an ace. You don't have anyone to carry the load for you in strikeouts. So I'm a little concerned in that. His relievers are pretty good. He's got who's he got there? Workman and Kimbrel. Hopefully those guys, they're pretty secure in their jobs, which is something that you need in a shortened season. I don't see anyone out of the Cubs bullpen taking the closing job from Kimbrel, which is great. But I think that those guys are going to hover around 4 ERAs, which is pretty high for closers. Those aren't going to be guys that are going to have 2 ERA closers. So it kind of balances each other out. And I think you need to find some strikeouts somewhere from your pitching staff. On a positive note, though, I think that Tyler's offense is the best in the league.
Oh, wow.
One of the best in the league. I mean, spot the weakness in Tyler's lineup. Sure. I mean, I can't do it. He could get a few more stolen bases somewhere. He doesn't have a top speed guy, but I think that Garrett Hampson could steal 10 bases as well. And he's something that I was going to maybe look to trade for, because I could use some stolen bases as well. If he gets the at-bats in Colorado, I like Garrett Hampson a lot. And I think that David Dahl is actually going to hit leadoff for Colorado. He might steal more bases than people expect. Yeah, he's going to score a lot of runs, and he might steal a few more bases than people expect. But stolen bases are his only weakness. He's got tons of power, tons of RBIs, and I really like his offense.
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of those same thoughts. Again, Kays is going to struggle for him. And the thing is, his bench, Lester, we know he doesn't strike people out. Shoemaker does not strike people out. And let me ask you this, Kyle. I don't know if this is really giving away strategy here, but is there much of a point to drafting a reliever in our setup that isn't a closer, that isn't like a straight K burner? Do you know what I mean by that? For him having Will Harrison right now, why not throw in a Caleb Smith or a Lester to get innings and more strikeouts over Will Harris, who's not going to get any saves? Do you know what I mean?
So yeah, we're gonna talk about this when we get to Justin's team because he took Roland Wick. Or was it Brad Wick? Well, one of those two. But
Because what strategy is there? I don't know. Like,
there's not a lot. They help your ratios. They help your ERA and your WHIP. And if they're getting 4 or 5 innings a week, you're hoping that they can get you 6 or 7 strikeouts, which is about what a starter would do.
Right. But if
typically, they might only get 2 or
boom.
3 innings a week. But yeah, if they get shelled, then you're kind of out of luck. But the same thing goes for the starters too. So I can see the value. I think the biggest place it hurts you is in wins, because unless they're coming in the 5th inning after a guy, you're not going to get you any wins. You're not going to get you any saves. You're going to drop in those categories. But I think that if you need to make a run in ERA and WHIP, and those are your biggest, if you have a high strikeout team, if you look at David's team, yeah, he could benefit from going with a middle reliever to help his ERA and his WHIP. Sure. Because he has strikeouts to back it up.
Yeah, no, agreed, 100%. Overall, I'm going to be right there. I think this is kind of a mirror of the last team we talked about. The other team was great pitching. This team's great offense, not great pitching. I think they're literally, in essence, opposites of each other. So I'll kind of give around the same grade as I did the last one. I think it's a C. Offense, phenomenal. Pitching needs a lot of work. And in a rotisserie, like you said with the other team, maybe make a trade. Maybe there's a chance to trade one of those guys here. So I'll give a C.
Yeah, I actually have a C down for Tyler as well. I think the offense is a top offense. It's definitely top 3 offense in the league. But I think that his pitching, he's looking at a last place pitching staff with where it's at right now. So he's going to need to find some points somewhere.
All right, moving right ahead to Team Special K. That is
my father. Yep, that's Phil. Yeah, so it's his first time joining one of our. Was he in a baseball league before?
I think he was. He was in the one last year with us. Yeah, the one off. Yeah. So let's look at it. Best value. I think you went first on best value last time. I'll take it away here. Kind of looking at this team here, I think he actually did a pretty good job here. Here's something I'll say, and I tried going hard for him at the end of the draft. DJ LeMahieu. Okay. In New York, did you see the numbers DJ LeMahieu put up last year in that stadium? I mean, this guy at $20, I think people kind of look at that and they wonder, okay, what can he bring? 26 home runs last year, 102 RBIs, hit 327. And I think there is a little bit of flexibility with the fact he can play first, second, and third.
Yeah.
I like the DJ LeMahieu at $20 a lot, and I was pushing hard to get him at that price. What's your best
60 games? In 60 games, DJ LeMahieu might score 60 runs.
Sure,
it wouldn't surprise me at all. I actually like a lot of the values that he got. I like Danny Santana for $1. I like Giancarlo Stanton for $20. Shane Bieber for $26. He got him early, but that turned out to be a really good pitcher value for like the fourth or fifth best pitcher in the league for $26. And then Rendon for $28 in an on-base percentage league. That guy is always on base. So there's a lot of guys I really like the values of that he got in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think he did a pretty good job of kind of getting his team in check and, finding the holes and the needs he needed to as well. You're right. Danny Santana at that cheap is a great price. Giancarlo Stanton, if healthy, is again one of those guys that can hit 20 home runs in a 60-game season. Biggest reach for you. We'll start you off on this one. What do you think?
I don't really have one. My biggest reach, I think, would be Max Fried for 15, but I actually like Max Fried a lot. And if I had the salary cap for him, I probably would have paid 15 for him as well. I think he's going to have a great year.
I agree. And interestingly enough, I was going to kind of say the same thing. If I had to pick one, if I had to go out there and pick one, I see his decision-making and picking. Is it Robles or Robles?
Yeah, I think it's Robles.
Okay. Victor Robles from Washington. I see the point. I think he's going to get the steals with Mondesi, though. But I do see where Robles could theoretically possibly win him the stolen base category. So in terms of that, I could see why he did it. But 15 for Robles, and this is just nitpicking, was a little high for me.
Yeah.
And also Salvador Perez, even at $5, Salvador Perez is not anything anymore in terms
of. He's a $1 catcher.
Yeah. He's not himself at all by any means. So, but other than that, you're right. I can't really give too much hate here. And overall, I know we got to start going a little quicker because we're only 4 teams in at 7-12. But I'll give actually a B+ to his team. I think it's very well balanced.
Yeah, it's definitely. I had the same grade. I gave him a B+. On base percentage is a definite weakness for him. A guy like Mondesi, some people think that all the fast guys have high on base percentages. Adalberto Mondesi might have an on base percentage of 270. No, not a batting average, an on base percentage of 270. He never walks, and he's not a guy that hits for high average. So that could be something that my dad needs to look out for.
Sure.
I don't like his on base percentage. He's got a front loaded pitching staff. It's not very deep, but he does score lots of runs and steal a lot of stolen bases. So I
Sure.
think if you can get his hands on one more mid level pitcher, maybe give up some of those stolen bases, maybe give up a guy like Mondesi, and kind of find a middle of the road there. I think he's going to be in great shape.
Agreed, no doubt about it. All right, so next team up is going to be Team Dane Wayne, which is my buddy Dana Fitzgerald. He's been in our football league for a while, was in the baseball league if you were with us last year. Dana's team, he likes his team a lot, and I think he spent a lot of his money early. He was one of the teams that was low on money quick and fast. You did best value last time. I'll start it off here. Looking at this team, I'll be honest. Ketel Marte can do anything. But I will say this. I think Marcus Semien at $13 with the season he put up last year with the ball being juiced, 33 home runs, 92 RBIs last year, hit 285, will steal a few bags here and there. Marcus Semien at $13 when you see what some shortstops were going for, I think that's great value. In fact, I think Dana got a lot of value on this team. I'm not going to give another name here in case I'm taking your name, but
Yeah.
I'll say Marcus Semien.
I like Semien for 13 a lot. That was kind of an oversight. I also like Altuve for 21 for maybe the number one second baseman in the league, and Patrick Corbin for 25. And the guys that jumped on those pitchers early and got those $25 pitchers, those Corbins, Castillo, Flaherty, and Bieber for in the $25, $26 range, I thought those were very good values for some of those pitchers.
Agreed, and that's kind of something I was going to say too when we get into one of his strengths for sure. I think he got great value at that position. A little bit of a reach for me. I personally wonder, and I don't even want to say it's too much of a reach. I personally wonder what kind of year Soler has.
He's a one-year wonder.
Right, we've seen him a lot in Chicago. He hit so many home runs last year. I don't mind him going 20 there because he could still do that. I'm not saying he's not, but there's also part of me that could see him hit 180 in these 60 games and be horrible. But it's hard for me to straight look out there and see, yeah, that's a huge reach, because I think Bregman for what you get at 40 isn't bad. Freeman, I don't know what his situation was with COVID. I think it does say he should be ready.
He has returned back to camp.
He has returned back, and I like him at 34. I think Garver at catcher wasn't bad, so I'll just say Soler at 20. What do you think?
I got a question for you, not throw you off track, but what's the difference between Jorge Soler and Aaron Judge? Both guys have had 40 home run years. They had 1 year in the pan. Both injury prone guys.
Rocket arms.
And yeah, I think they're basically the same player. So if you look at it like that, then $20 ain't so bad.
Sure.
I actually look at the guy right above Soler, Eddie Rosario, for 18. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. He's a guy that's got a high ceiling. He's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to drive in a lot of RBIs. Yeah. But that on-base percentage, holy cow, 320 projected for an outfielder for $18. That is
everything else looks good until that. You're right, because he hits for power, hits for RBIs, scores runs. But I do agree, Eddie Rosario.
He hasn't been doing it for a long time either.
Agreed, no doubt about it. But overall, strength and weakness, I think he's actually one of the most balanced teams in the league. I'll say it. I liked his draft. I think Ketel Marte, we spent a second on him, came on the scene last year. That guy will steal, hit home runs, hit for a good average, do everything for you. I actually really liked him at $32, and he could play multiple positions. I like his rotation. McCullers, he's coming off an injury. McCullers isn't bad. At $5 to take a flyer on him. Mike Minor, I had him in our league last year, and he was a Cy Young candidate for the first half of the season last year. At $7. Brandon Woodruff didn't pitch a ton of innings last year, but in 120 innings, he had a 3.62 ERA with 140 Ks last year at $10. So I actually, Gallegos, $2. Like, I like that a lot. I don't know what his injury status is, but
he reported late. I think he was a COVID guy.
And I'll say this, John Gray at $5, that strikeout machine. I know pitching Colorado can be a little scary, but overall, balance-wise, I'm going to give Dana actually an A-. I think he's one of the better teams in the league. I do think there's a couple question marks at pitching, whether McCullers bounces back. Does Minor kind of struggle after a breakout year last year? But I think Dana's got one of the more balanced teams in the league. Thoughts?
Yeah. That's actually the same grade I had, A-. You're reading my mind. I think that Dana's offense is very balanced. He could use a few stolen bases, but he is getting them from a lot of sources, which means it's going to be a reliable number. He's going to be middle of the pack. But I like how his Offense is balanced. I think he does need a little bit of pitching help. I don't know who his fifth starter is. I don't know if he's going to go with three relievers or not. I also don't trust a lot of those Milwaukee pitchers.
Yeah,
I
who
think their
knows?
schedule is going to be a little tough. I don't know, but I think that losing Yasmani Grandal, who is one of the best pitch framers, probably the best pitch framer in all of baseball, and just a veteran. I think losing them is going to hurt a lot of their young pitchers. So I stayed away from a lot of the Brandon Woodruffs and some of the young pitchers that Milwaukee
Okay.
has.
Yeah, interesting take on that for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. But we both like Dana's team quite a bit moving forward. So next team up is the sliding into the DMs. That's Christopher, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That is my cousin Christopher.
Awesome, sweet. So best value, I can't remember who went last first time.
It don't matter. Go ahead.
I will say, looking at this team, it's tough to me because I like some guys at higher prices there.
Oh, this is an easy one. It's the steal of the entire draft. It's Francisco Lindor for 29.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we did mention that at the top of the show, no doubt about it. Yeah, I think you can't go wrong with Francisco Lindor at all. But another name I will throw out there is his teammate Ramirez. I know he struggled off a little bit last year, but Ramirez is another one of those that can do everything. And if you actually look at their numbers, I don't know if you're on the site right now, but just looking straight at projections, they're projecting Jose Ramirez to almost have a better year than Francisco Lindor at $2 more.
They are
but another name,
better in every category.
Another name I'll throw out there, again, kind of what we were talking about with the Chris Bryant situation earlier. Bryce Harper is one of those guys that in a 60-game season can hit 20 home runs with a 380 average and a 450 on base percentage.
Yeah, high on base percentage.
Yep. So I like the fact that he's got three big boomers in Ramirez, Lindor, and Harper. And Jose Abreu, kind of underrated in baseball circles. That guy's going to hit some home runs, have an okay on base percentage. I like it. I like that value there at Bryce Harper. But you kind of mentioned Lindor, so go ahead.
Yeah, all Jose Abreu does is hit 30 home runs and drive in 100 RBIs. He's done it basically every year of his career. So I like Jose Abreu for that a lot. So I think Lindor's best value. I actually would disagree on Harper. I think it was a little bit of a stretch for 32 on him. But the way it kind of shakes out is if you would have spent 40 on Lindor and 20 on Harper, and it would have kind of evened out that way, it would have been good values for both those players. So it just kind of evens out that way. I just think that 32 is a little bit too much for Harper.
Sure. And any dollars at all for Ryan Braun is too much. I think we can all agree on that. Any dollars at all. I don't care if it's $1 or $2. That guy should not even be in the league. I just don't like
that. I'll refrain from booing into my mic.
But in terms of you said biggest reach a little bit Harper on your end. I'll actually say this again, for being your ace, not bad. I think when is Justin Verlander? And I know he was great. So maybe this is me going crazy. This might be me going off the wagon a little bit. When are we going to start seeing Justin Verlander come down to earth?
That's a good question. And it's him and Scherzer as well. They're both on the back nines of their careers.
He's 37. Like, when is he going to fall off?
Yes, but until he does, you can't knock him.
I'll say this, Kenley Jansen, I think at 13, that doesn't sound like a high price. He wasn't the greatest last year. A 3.71 ERA for a closer isn't all that good. He is going to get you some strikeouts, so it might kind of balance it out there. And he should get a lot of opportunities being in LA. So I think overall it might not be bad, but if he slips up again, and you never know with relievers, he's 32 years old. He might have lost it a little bit. Kenley Jansen would have been mine. Yeah. But overall, grade-wise, I'll say B-. I like his big boomers in Harper, Ramirez, and Lindor, and Abreu. I think he's got some big, nice hitters there, but I think he's missing some. Ryan McMahon's okay. Tim Anderson's going to have some average. Gavin Lux, we'll see what he kind of brings there. Ryan Braun, Brian Buxton in the lineup. Interesting. That might be a little bit of a weakness there. Pitching rotation-wise, what is Cease going to give? What is Keuchel going to give? Lamet was hurt last year. What is he going to give? I just think there's a lot of what-ifs on this team, and that's why I can't give the highest of grades.
I like that he's got two solid closers. I think they fit his team very well. Melanson's got the job in Atlanta. Jansen's got job locked up in LA. Verlander's a great ace to have. Yeah, who knows when he starts to fall off. I'm worried about the back end of his rotation. I don't know what to expect out of Montas. Dinelson Lamet was a guy that I like a lot, but he is a guy that people are expecting him to be Justin Verlander, but I think he's more closer to Robbie Ray than anything else. He's going to strike out a lot of guys, but I don't think he's going to be like a sub-3 ERA or even come close. Right. Keuchel, oh God. And then Dylan Cease, who knows what you're getting with Dylan Cease. He pitched well in parts last year. If he gets top prospect Dylan Cease, he's going to be in great shape. He does need to find a replacement for Keuchel, though, because I think that could get a little ugly pretty quickly. Yeah. And I don't like the power he has on his team because he's got so many White Sox. I don't know if they're going to drive in a lot of runs. Maybe their offense is going to be a lot better. But I think that he's lacking a lot of RBI guys. McCutcheon's going to hit leadoff. McMahon's not going to play every day. Tim Anderson's not going to have a lot of RBIs. Buxton's not going to drive a lot of guys in. Gavin Lux, who knows? I don't think he's got a lot of RBIs on his team.
And on base percentage wise, Harper, Lindor, and Ramirez might save him, but he's got a lot of sub 340 on base guys.
Yep.
So, even Tim Anderson, Tim Anderson himself, who hit such a great average last year, they're projecting him to almost fall off this year with a 305 on base percentage, and he hit 330 last year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a pretty big drop. But did you give an official grade on it?
Oh, I did not. My official grade is a C+. You went B-, I went C+.
Okay, sweet. All right, so we like his team average, but not quite in love with it. Ring Your Bells is up next. That is Dave, because he is a Pirate fan, Josh Bell. He thought he reached a lot on Mike Trout, but after a lot of what happened, we'll see, especially with the baby issues and all that possibly looming. But it is Mike Trout, so I guess you kind of set the market there. Best value, I think I went last the first couple times. What do you got on Dave's team?
I like Matt Boyd for $8. I think that he is a definitely sleeper pitcher for $8. I think that's great value. He plays in Detroit, which helps him because that's a terrible ballpark. It's a great ballpark to pitch in, but he might win 2 games this year for all we know. But he's going to strike out a ton of guys. He's projected for 87 strikeouts. He's going to lead his team in strikeouts. And he's going to help you a lot as long as he keeps up his pedigree. I also like Justin Turner a lot.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He got him. Yeah. He was, I remember talking to him during the draft. He was surprised he got him at that spot for that cheap. I mean, Justin Turner, projected for 10 home runs, a 381 on base percentage, is going to go score runs on that lineup. I mean, I was shocked seeing him at $7, and I wanted to jump in on it.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy. If I had some money left over, he was a guy that I was looking to fill my utility spot. He can never stay healthy, but again, it's 60 games. All he needs to do to stay healthy, and he's going to contribute a lot in that Dodgers lineup. A lot of runs scored, a lot of RBIs.
Right. My best value personally is Austin Meadows. I mean, this is a guy that was banged up a little bit last year, but still played a lot. Former Pirate
in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I bring it up all the time with Dave being a Pirate fan. Horrible trade they made, trading Meadows and Glasnow for Chris Archer. I bring it up to him all the time. But Meadows is fantastic. Great power, can steal some bags, decent on base percentage at $19. I was actually surprised he got him that cheap. Another one too. For me, I'm always a Charlie Blackmon fan, and again, this might be one of those times when you can wonder, when is he going to fall off? When is he going to fall off? Yep. But hitting in Colorado, that guy simply rakes, and he is one of my favorite players to watch.
What doesn't Charlie Blackmon do?
What does he? Well, yeah, exactly. What does he not do? And I love Charlie Blackmon, and again, that was going to be one of those guys I would have went for if I had the capital. But I love Charlie Blackmon a lot. One of the biggest reaches for me personally. Honestly, I'll say it. I think Manny Machado.
Don't like Manny Machado at all.
I don't hate what he can bring, but he's a low average guy lately, which kind of dings his on base percentage a little bit. I don't know exactly what we're going to get from him. He's not going to quite hit 40 home runs. He might even hit as low as 23, 24 home runs. It's just tough to expect what to get out of Manny Machado. And again, when you see Lindor and when you see Chris Bryant and when you see guys like that going for around that same price, it's hard for me to justify that. I don't think it's horrible reach, but to me, that would be the worst value.
He's probably my least favorite baseball player in the league right now. Just the way he says, I don't have to run to first, so you don't pay me to run, and he kind of sold out to go play in San Diego. He's a very easy guy to hate. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of an overpay, but to me, it's easy. It's Trout for 55. You don't knock a guy. I'm not knocking you, Dave, for going after Trout for 55. If he's your guy, he's probably all of our favorite players.
You regretted it immediately.
It's probably, but here's the thing: is Mike Trout his wife's gonna have a baby, and he's gonna leave when that baby's born. If he has to be quarantined for 10 days before getting back with the team, you're talking about 12, 13, 14 games out of a 60-game
It's
schedule.
a quarter. Yeah.
That's a quarter of the season. If you knock a quarter off all of his stats, you just turn 35 home runs, 110 RBIs into 26 home runs and like 80 RBIs. And you can find that in Austin Meadows for $19.
Sure.
So I get it. You can fill that spot while he's gone with someone else's stats. But I think for 55, when you look at the way some of the values of some of these other guys go, Bellinger went for 38. Trout is not a $55 player. And I know he was biting his tongue, and he regretted it when it happened. But you're not going to be upset that Mike Trout's on your team. So
Right.
that's what I love about the auction. If you love a guy, just go get him. Get the guys on your team
Yep.
that you want, and I'm not going to knock it.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. In terms of strengths and weaknesses, I think overall he's got a pretty, again, balanced team. I think he's got some balance. He's got some home run guys in there. I think he's got one of the most pop teams in the league. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 guys. I think, did I count there at 3, 4, 8 guys scheduled for double-digit home runs on the season, and he's also got one on his bench in Didi Gregorius.
Yeah.
I will say I think that's definitely a strength. His home runs, he's going to have a lot of RBIs. He's going to be in the top of that categories on home runs and RBIs for sure. No doubt about it.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, most of his on bases are 350, 360, 350, 360.
I think he's going to lead the league in on base percentage.
Yeah. I like his lineup a lot. I just think there's some question marks in the rotation. Okay, what do we really get at Barrios? We've been waiting for him to be an ace for a while. Fulton Nevic, Marquez in Colorado. You were always worried that they're going to get hit up there. His ERA is going to be pretty high. But I will say this. If Chapman and Ozuna are healthy and are on the team, he might not have a high ERA, but he could also lead the save category.
Yes. I'm concerned about Chapman. He just got COVID. I don't know when he's going to be back, but I know Britton's got the job there for now. And then Ozuna, actually, he just went out with, I think, COVID as well.
Might not be ready. Yeah.
He might have 0 closers to start the season, which could put him back. But if they're back by, let's say, Monday, he might only miss 3 days of them. We'll see how that goes. Sure. I think his ERA is going to be very high. If you look at a guy like German Marquez, I mean, one start in Colorado, he could give up 10 runs, and he could never recover from
over at that point.
So I think he's got one of the, if not the best offenses in the league. I know I said that about David, or who did I say that about? I think I said that about Tyler as well.
Yeah.
But I think he could get a few more stolen bases. I think he's going to lead the league in on-base percentage. I like his offense a lot. He's only got 3 guys that aren't projected to hit double-digit home runs. So I like his team, and I like it a lot.
I actually gave it a B+. I think
that's what I gave it as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I think the pitching, but there's some question marks, but that lineup's really good. All right, so moving on, our buddy Peter, Pistol Pleats Platoon, a name that he goes with, and I like it. Keep it nice and good there. Best value, start us off.
I like Clevenger for 25, and it's in that tiers of if you got your starter early, that group that I mentioned earlier that all went that $25 range. Sure. I just think it's a great value for him, and it's a solid guy to have on your team.
I'll say Ryu. I mean, I know he's old, and I know he kind of broke out last year, and I mean, he's always been solid for LA. This guy had a 2.3 ERA last year. I know he's not a huge strikeout guy, but in a league where one bad outing, as we've talked about many times, can kill you, and I know he's playing in Toronto, he's going to be playing in the AL East, but I like Ryu a lot, and for $11, I don't think you can go wrong there. Another one, Lance Lynn last year had a pretty damn good season. I mean, Lance Lynn last year, 16-11. 246 strikeouts, a 3.6 ERA, $8. I like that a lot. I think you got a good price on Buehler. I could argue that Walker Buehler is a top 5 pitcher in baseball. But offensively, I think there is some. But overall, like I'm kind of rambling a bit here. But overall, I think Ryu is the best value. The best reach, or the biggest reach here for me, I'll just flat out say it. I know he's the hot spot lately. I know everyone's loving him a lot. But Luis Robert at 25, when you see what other people were going for around there, that could be the biggest hit or miss of the draft based off his projected stats.
Yeah.
I don't think he's worth 25.
I'm okay with Luis Robert at
Okay.
25, actually. I think that there's a good chance, there's non-zero chance that Luis Roberts hits home runs, 10 steals, 10 bases. But yeah, that on-base percentage is going to hurt you. But in a rotisserie league, that those home runs and stolen bases will really help you a lot.
Sure.
I'm not actually flip-flopping on you. I think his biggest reach is Walker Buehler for 34. And here's
Okay.
the reason why. I liked Buehler a lot going into the year. He's a pitcher. He's one of the most dominant pitchers in the league. He's definitely a top 5 pitcher in the league. He has just now started his ramp up process, and they're not expecting him to be ready to go fully deep into games until about like 25% of the way through the year. I
Right.
think
That
that
could
hurts
be
his
huge.
value a lot. I don't know if they're going to piggyback in with Dustin May or Drew Gratterall or some of those other guys they got in the Dodgers bullpen, but I don't think that he's going to win a lot of games because they're not going to let him pitch deep into games. And they're going to be a team that's going to be geared towards the postseason. They have a lot of good pitchers on their team. They're not going to let Buehler throw 110 pitches. They're not going to let him go deep into games. And that's going to hurt his win count. It's going to hurt his strikeouts. I think his pitching staff is really good. And I like his offense as well. He's got a good power speed combo. But actually, if you look at his team right now, he doesn't have a closer. Nick
Right.
Anderson is not the closer for Tampa Bay, and Ryan Helsley, he was a guy that I was looking to draft, but I'm kind of glad I didn't get him because Gallegos is back for St. Louis. They might either go with Gallegos or they're going to go by closer by committee, and I don't think that the job is Helsley's. So I don't think he has a closer. I think he's got some questions at the back end of his rotation. I don't know what to expect out of Heaney. I don't know what to expect out of Lynn. Those guys are kind of, flash in the pan players. Ryu, he's had some good stretches. If you can get a solid 60 game, however many innings out of him, he's going to be in great shape. I also think his outfielders are pretty weak. Or actually, no, I think not his outfielders are weak. He's got so many outfielders.
He
He's
does.
got Conforto, Robert, Schwarber, Springer, Eaton, Adele, Cespedes, and then he drafted 4 more outfielders in the reserve draft. Adele, Cespedes, Azevedo Garcia, Ian Happ. So I'm just kind of looking at his team like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You drafted 5 outfielders, 4 in the reserve draft, and then you didn't draft a closer. So for that reason, I'm giving Pete a B-. I got to be hard on Pete just because
Yeah.
Pete always has a knack of knocking me out of the playoffs everywhere. So
Well, and then here's another thing. He drafted a lot of outfielders, but going off one of his former White Sox, Adam Eaton at $3. I know he's not going to hit
yeah,
for
but
much power, but
who's he gonna put him in for?
I
Right
know
when
that's
Joe
the thing.
Adele comes up,
Joe
who's he
Adell
gonna
might
take out of
not.
his lineup?
He might not even be in the big league camp this year. They might take him really slow. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's tough, and I think you kind of highlighted a lot of glaring issues. If he doesn't have a closer, I said that to my buddies the other day too. It's like you can't just knock off the head-to-head
Yeah.
category of like I'm not going to close. If he does
Mm-hmm.
not have a closer, that's going to be detrimental to him
Yeah.
winning.
Mm-hmm.
Detrimental. So I do agree with that. I actually gave him a C because even though he drafted a lot of outfielders, Conforto, Schwarber, Springer, Eaton, these are all 350, 360 on base guys. I think his on base is going to be one of the better ones, but then
Mm-hmm.
he kind of offsets it a little bit, which I understand. There is 2 cheapest players with like a Carson Kelly and a Hosmer, which might bring him down a little bit. But overall, and I'm not a huge VR fan, Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
VR.
Me
I know
either.
he's going to get some steals, but overall, I like his team. But if he just can fix a few of those glaring holes, I think he would have had one of the better teams in the
Yeah,
league. But those glaring
I'd
holes
agree.
are too much for me, so I'm
Yep.
going with a C on Peter. All right, so we're down, I think, to our last 4 teams here. We are on. Let's see. How about that? My team,
All right.
E-Rocks
All right.
Dynasty. Well, not a dynasty yet, so I might have to change that name. But looking at my team, let's hear it, whether it's harsh or not. What
All
did you
right.
think was the best value from my
Uh,
team?
Best value, I'm going to go Aaron Judge for 22. I know I just kind of got done bashing when I was talking about Jorge Soler, but Aaron Judge is a guy who he's in that group of players who could lead the league in home runs. He's going to have a decent on base percentage. He walks a lot. So for $22, I like that value for Aaron Judge.
Okay, on my team, what I felt like I got a great value on was I'll throw 2 names out there. I don't want to do it too much, but
Yeah, go for it.
Brantley and Moustakas for me.
Yep.
I've always been a Michael Brantley fan. I think
Mm-hmm.
that the Cubs were one of those teams that should have went after him when he was a free agent last year. I don't know where he would have fit on that team. I just love Michael Brantley. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
hit for home runs, hit RBIs, score runs. He's slow as dirt. He's not going to steal, but he's going to have a high average. And in that lineup, he's going to get a lot of opportunities.
He might get you a handful of stolen bases. He's not that slow. He's a
Right, yeah.
well-rounded player, and he's going to help you. He hits
I
for high average.
I
He's going to
like
be on
Brant.
base a lot. He's
Yeah,
going
I
to score
like
a lot of runs.
I like Brantley a lot. Moustakas too. He doesn't get the love he deserves.
Underrated, very
I know
underrated.
he's not going to get a huge average guy, but he plays multiple positions. He's
Mhm.
going to hit for pop. He's in that Reds lineup, which I think if he hits in the middle of that lineup, a lot of chances there. A lot of
Mhm.
chances to drive in runs. So I think
Yep.
Moustakas at 11. I actually wasn't going to quite go for him, and then I saw the bid there, and I'm like, man, I can't let him go
Yep.
for that cheap. And
Yeah.
again, don't mean to get too crazy here, but I was with you on the whole get a catcher for $1 thing because they're not going to play as much. But seeing Wilson Ramos, one of the better hitting catchers
He's good
left,
value for 5.
and
I like him
yeah,
a lot.
and the fact that he might DH a lot more this year because that's
Mhm.
a capability, he might get more at bats than people think. So I didn't mind him at $5.
Yep.
Biggest reach.
Oh, it's the biggest reach of the draft, Eric. The biggest reach of the draft was Madison Bumgarner for 20. Madison
Oh,
Bumgarner is like a $3 player. He is
no!
not the pitcher anymore that you
Did you
expect him to
look
be.
at his numbers
Madison,
last year?
Madison Bumgarner pitched his entire career in San Francisco, the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in the world. He just got into a rodeo clown accident or a
Oh,
rodeo
God.
accident or whatever it is. He hasn't been the same pitcher since. He's pitched his home and road splits are awful. If you can find his home and road splits while you're in there, they
Oh
are
my
not pretty.
God.
And now he's going to Arizona where the ball flies in that thin
We'll
air.
see, buddy.
He
We'll
is
see.
going to get lit
See,
up. He has always been a home pitcher, and when his home is San
wow.
Francisco in that pitcher-friendly ballpark, and he is on the back nine of his career, hasn't been the same since the injury. Hate the value at $20. I wouldn't spend more than
Here's the
5
thing.
on him.
Here's the thing. As big as baseball fans as we are, if you would have told me Madison Bumgarner pitched last year at the age of 29, would you believe me?
Oof, he's 30. Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
He's
A
not
lot of
30 full burst.
postseason innings on that arm, though.
I agree. But here's my thing, and I didn't necessarily overlook the Arizona ballpark thing, but this is a guy that still had 200 strikeouts and a sub-4 ERA last year. So I actually didn't hate him at $20. My biggest reach for me, honestly, once I saw what other shortstops are going for, I know he's my boy, and the whole like, go get your guy thing.
Yeah.
Baez at 28.
Yep.
Now I like Baez personally as a player.
Guy.
I think he's more fun to watch than Bryant, but I would have rather had Bryant at $27. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. And I know me and you dig Bryant a little bit, but from a pure fantasy perspective, I was kind of kicking myself a little bit drafting Baez at 28 when Bryant went for 27 or 28. I can't remember exactly, but
yeah.
My biggest weakness, I'll start with my weakness. Late in the draft, I kind of had an uh-oh moment where I was like, crap, I'm not going to get steals. I thought about going after Buxton. The price got drawn up too high on him. I think I kind of have a weird feeling Justin Upton could bounce back in that lineup. So I'm not too as much worried about him. Cano for me, I think is okay. Rosario's going to hit for a decent average. On base is awful.
Yeah.
But that to me, that little stretch of Smith, Upton, Cano, and Rosario worries me. I think if you take those 4 names out and you just look at the lineup from Judge up, I think it's a really solid lineup.
Any team that has Mallex Smith on it is going to suffer in 4 categories. You're going to get those steals, and he's going to carry you in stolen bases as long as he stays healthy. But he hurts you in batting average, RBIs, runs, and home runs.
Right.
Here's what you did, though. I liked how you balanced it with your infield. You have a power-hitting infield with Escobar and Muncy and Moustakas and Baez. Those guys are big power guys, and they kind of offset your taking of Mallex Smith. And Mallex Smith is going to steal enough bases to kind of keep you afloat in that category. Here's the biggest problem with your offense. Look at your on-base percentage. Holy smokes.
Yeah. And that's usually something I focus on.
Percentage, guys.
Yeah, that's usually something I focus on. I know.
Yeah.
It is not good.
It's not great. Escobar, not great. Baez, 322. Mallex Smith, 318. Upton, 338. You don't have hardly anyone who's going to get on base with a 340 clip.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a problem. And it's funny because I usually that's one of the things I usually look at a lot, and we'll see what happens. I think if some of those 330s can turn into 350s, I'll feel happy. But
and you only have one closer.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And here's the other thing that I did not realize, and that's the whole COVID thing, which we really haven't brought up too much. I think Yordan Alvarez is one of those things that would put me over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he would help you a lot, but he's not gonna. I don't know if he'll help you in the categories you need most, though.
Right, because
so the only thing.
Yeah, he's projected at a 380 clip. He hit 27 home runs. He hit 27 home runs last year in 313 at bats.
He was
half of a season.
Very underrated.
And they don't know
great value at $19.
And they don't know if he's going to play. Like, they don't know when he's going to be ready, and that's my worry. And at $19, I'm sitting here thinking I got an absolute. I've not seen anyone else not many people at a 40 RBI prediction. He's projected
Yeah.
for 41 RBIs.
Yeah.
So I really
Mhm.
hope he plays because I think that's the difference between me being able to take one of those sketchier players out. But yeah, that's kind of one of my worries there.
I
But go ahead. What were you
I
saying?
think if you can scoop up a closer on the waiver wire in the first week or two, if you can get one via trade, if there's one that crops up, I think you're going to be in contention for
I
the
will
league
say
title.
though, Liam
But that's going to
Hendricks
be a
though,
glaring weakness for you.
I will say Liam Hendricks at $9. I was shocked I got him there. This is a guy that pitched 85 innings last year and had 124 strikeouts in 85 innings, and they're saying he's going to be the closer. So I think I can maybe hold fort there with
Do you
Oakland being a good team.
do you know who the last Oakland closer was to lead their team in saves 2 years in a row?
Eric Gagne. Did he play for?
Grant Balfour.
Oh wow.
It's been
Okay.
like 13
You
years
got
since
those weird stats on. I don't got those weird ones on me like that.
It's been like 13 years since a guy from the Oakland Athletics has
Oh,
led their team in saves in 2 straight years. It's
okay.
kind of a bad omen for Hendricks. You think of who was their closer from last year that was like the number one closer. I forget his name.
Hendricks
And then
took over
just
for a little bit, but I'm trying to remember. You're right. I thought it was a
yeah,
younger, but I can't
yeah,
remember.
but then it just fell off the wagon. So I don't know what's going to go on there. I gave your draft a B. I think the one closer thing is going to hurt you off the bat. Your low on base percentage is going to hurt you. But I think if you can get those things straight, you get Yordan Alvarez back. I think you're going to be right up there with the top teams.
I agree, and I actually spent more in pitching than I thought I was going to initially. I finished my rotation pretty quick, and I think ERA wise might be a little bit of a struggle, but all of my guys are +9 strikeout guys, which I like, except maybe Bumgarner's hovering around that range as you mentioned. But if Glasnow can pitch a full season at 20, that might be a steal there too. But overall, the first time doing an auction draft, I was a little kind of watching it a little bit. I gave myself a B-. I like my team. I do think that there are some issues there, but overall, coming out of the draft, I felt content about my team, but I do think you're right. The on base percentage could drag me down quite a bit, and we'll see how that save situation goes. But next team up is going to be. Hold on, taking a second here. Sometimes this site takes a bit. CFLs. We got 4 teams left with about 20 minutes left. You got to leave at 8, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Roughly.
So we might have to run through a couple of these teams a little bit quicker. But CFLs. What did you like about his team value?
Best value, I think Renfroe for one. I think he's in that short list of guys who can lead the league in home runs.
But
yeah, horrible on base. But for $1, you're not gonna find a better power value than that. When you think about is he 94% of Jorge Soler, and Jorge Soler is $19 and Renfroe is $1.
Yeah,
I think that's what.
I'll actually say this, and I know he's been digressing a lot lately. This might sound completely crazy to some. I think, in the same sense, he might struggle with on base. I think him getting Votto late was huge because I think he's also going to have an on base issue like me. Outside of Hoskins and Yelich, he doesn't really have an on base guy. I think getting Votto's not going to hit a ton of home runs anymore, but to have him in there just to kind of hopefully jump that on base a little bit at $8, I didn't mind that as much. And I think Kyle Seager's another guy, but a lot of these guys are low on base guys. My biggest reach for me was, I'll say this was the biggest reach of the draft, especially with how he performed yesterday. Yu Darvish, $31. He got
Strasburg that's a lot. He was a guy that I really wanted. I really wanted Darvish, and then I stopped bidding at like 23 or something, and I'm like, all right, let's see what you're talking about. And it just kept going up and up, and I'm like, oh man, no way. So I will say this, like I think he reached for about 3 or 4 players. I didn't like some of the values he got at all. I don't like Hendricks. I don't like Darvish for 31. I don't like Hendricks for 20. I know he's a good ERA guy, but he just doesn't strike anyone out. And I think 20 is a little bit much for him. But that's kind of where some of those values were for some of those pitchers. And 19 for Yates. If you look at, I got Hector Neris for like $1. And you got Kirby Yates for 19. I think that's a slight overpay with how closers kind of shaked out. I think going into the draft, that's about where his value was, but sometimes you just kind of adapt to where some of these closers are. You never really want to be the first guy to take a closer because you don't know what the market's going to be. I'm okay. Here's the thing about Darvish and Hendricks complement each other very well. If Darvish returns to form, he strikes so many people out that he balances what you're losing with Hendricks, that they actually complement each other so well fantasy-wise, but they don't complement each other for $52 or $51.
No, not at all.
That's absurd. When you could have gotten Clevenger for 25 and Flaherty for 27 for that kind of money. Those are some big reaches there.
And that's the thing, is I don't hate Strasburg at 30. I don't, because he's proven he's done it. 250
Mm-hmm.
Ks and 200 innings last year, but you're right. I think he reached on a few guys. He went really cheap at some positions. Starlin Castro $1, Seager $1. They're starting. Lorenzo Cain, his tires are about to fall off at $5.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, to me, there's a little bit too many holes, a little bit of an on-base issue similar to mine. Outside of Strasburg, I don't completely trust his rotation. Like you said, what are we going to get from Darvish? Are we going to get what we saw the other day? Or are we going to get what we saw at the tail end of last season? Luke Weaver and J.A. Happ kind of rounding out your rotation. Not thrilled with that. I gave Chad a D+.
Yeah. I gave him a C- actually. I was a little bit tougher on Chad. I don't like his infield. He's got a very weak infield. Hoskins, I'm not a huge fan of, but Starlin Castro, Kyle Seager, Paul DeJong rounding out your infield. There's not a name on that list I like, and I get that they're $1 and $2 players,
Right.
but I just not a big fan of his infield at all. I think that he might need to put Wong in there if he needs any. He shouldn't need any stolen bases between Yelich and Marte. But if Yelich isn't going to be stealing bases after his knee surgery, he might need those help and stolen bases.
Right.
There's some questions in his rotation. I don't like some of his back end guys. I think J.A. Happ's like a 5 ERA guy. I don't know what he's getting there. Kevin Ginkel, I've never even heard of that guy. I know he's not their closer, so I don't even know what kind of value he's providing. And who knows what we're going to get from Luke Weaver. So he's got some definite question marks with his pitchers. He's got some pitchers on his bench that I like. I really like Dylan Bundy, Adrian Hauser. I hear a lot of good things about him, but again, I'm staying away from that Milwaukee rotation because of the loss of Yasmani Grandal. So he's got plenty of pitchers. I just don't love the pitchers that he has in his lineup right now. If Bundy and Hauser can pitch well, I think his rotation will be good. He's going to need to pick up some saves somewhere, but I think there's some holes in his offense as well. So I gave him a C-.
All right, I finished out with a D+ on him. I think he's got too many holes for me personally. He's got some bright spots here and there, but a little too many holes. All right, moving on to the next team. We go now to your team. Burns when I PV. Nice, there you go. Initially, here's what I thought, because I've never been part of an auction. I love JD Martinez more than anyone. At first, when I saw 35, I'm like, that's just too much for JD Martinez. But once the draft kind of went along, I'm like, you know what? That actually isn't bad for what he provides. And the fact that he gets an outfield slot is luxurious, because I thought if anyone gets a utility spot, he would be one of those guys. One value I thought you did really good at was Keston Hiura. I like him at $23. I don't know if I said that right. Another one, even more so, that just popped in my mind, Carlos Santana at $10. I mean, 34 home runs and 93 RBIs last year. Kind of brought it back after that signing with Philly and going back to Cleveland. Carlos Santana at $10, you could argue. Again, we kind of are doing the what's the difference between this player and this player. Looking at those numbers, what's the difference between a Santana and a Rizzo?
Yeah.
You know?
They're both pretty high on base percentage guys. So, yeah, my kind of draft strategy, I was just kind of trying to figure out, what was going on with the draft. My original plan was to do stars and scrubs, and I was 100% all in on getting Trey Turner. I got outbid for him. It got too rich for my blood, so it kind of threw everything off. I got to the point where I had like $90 or so for a bunch of players, and I knew I wanted to kind of go with the stars and scrubs method. I had no intentions of getting Devers or JD Martinez, but I just kind of knew that I got outpriced on a few guys. I got outpriced on Castellanos. I got outpriced on Turner and a couple other guys that I was targeting. So I just kind of knew I had to spend that money somewhere, knowing that I really wanted to pick up the crumbs late in the draft. And I think that those $1 players that I picked up at the end of the draft, Alex Wood, Rich Hill, Dansby Swanson, Gio Urshela, those are guys that I really like and who are big time sleepers for me. So I think that everything balanced itself out really well. Who do you think was my biggest reach?
I'll say this, and I've liked him as a player moving up. I don't know. It's tough for me because he actually put up better numbers than I thought he did last year. But I'll say I thought initially Devers was a little bit much on for me. I thought Devers at 28. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And again, when you look at his numbers and Chris Bryant's at the same price, you could maybe get the same amount of home runs, similar RBIs, and about a 40% higher on base percentage, 40 points. for around the
Mhm.
same price. So that
Yeah.
and multiple positions. So for me, Devers off jump was like a little much for me. I don't hate it. I don't see anybody on your team that
Mhm.
I hate. In fact, another value I think is a JD Davis. Multiple
Yeah.
positions, $7, hits the cover off the ball. So I do like that as well. But
Yep.
Devers to me, it's not huge, it's not horrible, but to me that seemed a little
He
bit pricey for me.
he was a guy that I was just like, I need to spend my money on someone, and he is just kind
Right.
of the guy I fell on.
Right. What about you?
I struggled to really find where my biggest reach was. I think Giles for 12 when you look at some of where the closes were, but I got Giles as like my fourth best closer in the
Sure.
league. I like his consistency. I think Charlie Morton for 27. I would have much rather had Shane Bieber or Jack Flaherty for that money. I'm not a huge Charlie Morton fan.
And he kind of came out of
Um,
nowhere a little bit last year. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't really know where his health is. I'm not thrilled about him, but he was that kind of one of those guys who was like the last in the tier. It was like him and like Maeda were like the last two on the board in that tier. So I just kind of just threw it
Right.
at him, knowing that I wanted to get that pitching. And it's kind of what I ended up with.
Biggest strengths and weaknesses. I'll start with your weakness. I'll say this. I think again kind of saves you a little bit drafting DeGrom in terms of strikeouts. There's not many pitchers on your team that are gonna. I think Maeda and Martin are gonna be okay in that regard, but I, these are some guys that not only have had injury issues. Maeda and Rich Hill,
Mm-hmm.
DeGrom's had some injury issues. You like
Mm-hmm.
Giles a lot, but in a short 60-game season, it could go either way. How many save situations is he gonna have in
Yeah,
Toronto in that
Toronto might
division?
not win a lot of games.
Right. Alex Wood, I do think he is listed as the fourth starter there. Not a huge strikeout guy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like your rotation, but I also can see it with the age and the players involved. I can possibly see like a big red flag. Your rotation blows up in your face.
Yeah, it could definitely be. That's what happens when you get two $1 guys in your rotation. But
Right.
I'm pretty confident. The Dodgers seem to know what they're doing with their pitchers.
Sure.
You look at Rich Hills; he's only projected for 39 strikeouts, but it's only in 35 innings because they're just expecting him to get hurt. So I
Sure.
just once I replace Rich Hill when he when he gets hurt because he always does, I think I'll be okay. Same thing with Alex Wood; they're about $1 or they're about strikeout and inning guys. It's not like they're not strikeout guys. It's just that they typically don't get a lot of innings because they're usually hurt. So I
Right.
could find myself having 3 hurt pitchers in a week and no one to pick up on the waiver wire. So that could definitely hurt me. I also have a glaring weakness in stolen bases. I got Acuna
Yes.
for 10, but I don't have a lot after that.
Nobody
And
else
I'm going
really.
to need
Yeah.
here to step up. But yeah, and I'm not, there's some teams out there, I think I forget whose team it was, where it's like every one of their players chips in 2 to 4 stolen bases. I don't have one of those teams.
You
Correa's
got a
going to
lot
give me
of
zero.
goose eggs at the stolen
Davis,
bases.
zero. Yeah.
Yeah. You got a lot of those.
So
Yeah.
I might need to find some stolen bases somewhere else. Maybe John
Yeah.
Birdie cracks my lineup at some point.
There you go.
Birdie.
And outside of obviously you went for the $1 catcher, so outside of that, I like your lineup a lot. Even Mark Canha at that price,
Mm-hmm.
even Ursula coming back from injury, who knows how much he's going to play. But Dansby, we're still waiting on him to kind of break out a little bit. I think your lineup, when you look at JD Martinez and up, Martinez,
Mm-hmm.
Canha, Acuna, Davis, Correa, Devers, Hura, Santana. I think that's one of the better lineups in the league. The rotation scares me a little bit in the same sense the on base percentage scared you on my team. I'm going to say you have about the same grade that I gave myself in a B minus.
I gave myself a B plus. I think it went pretty well. I like the dollar guys I got at the end. Like I said, I do think there's a lot of question marks. I got a lot of injury risk guys. But if things all go my way, I'm liking the way the team's looking.
All right, moving on, to teams left. Battling bench bums is next. That is Jay Snyder. That is one of Dave's buddies who's been in our football league the last couple years. Start us off, Kyle. Biggest reach.
Biggest reach would be Jesus Luzardo for 9. Jesus Luzardo is a great prospect. He's going to be a great pitcher, but they're going to have him on a pitch count this year. I don't even know if he's going to pitch into the 5th inning at all this year, which means he's not going to get any wins. So for 9, it's hard to say that that's a big reach because of the talent that's there. He's going to strike out a lot of guys, but he's just a guy that I knew I wanted to stay away from this year. Going forward, he's going to be a great pitcher. I just didn't like him for this setup.
Yeah, biggest reach for me, glaring off jump. It's hard to find like a glaring big reach for me. And I know you like him a lot, and I know you were going after him, but 39 to me is just a little too much for Trey Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I don't like Trey Turner, because in fantasy circles his numbers are so much higher. They are compared to, like, you don't necessarily think of him as a top 10 player in baseball, but he does a little bit of everything. But to me, and even it seemed like you too rich for your blood, right? 39 just seemed a little much for me on Trey Turner.
That was a little bit of a reach, but it mitigates so much. It takes such a weight off your
It
chest knowing
does.
you don't have to get stolen bases the rest of the draft if you have
Right.
him. He's going to kick in 15 stolen bases. He's probably going to lead the league in stolen bases, and he's not going to hurt you in any categories. And you can't say the same about the guys like Malik Smith or who's second baseman with Miami.
D. Gordon.
No, the Villar.
Oh yeah, Jonathan
Um,
Villar. Duh. Yeah.
um, guys like those who hurt you in 2-3 categories. He's the only him and Acuna are the stolen base guys who don't hurt you in
Right.
many categories.
And here's the thing with Dave's team, his on base. Look at it. Look at some of the top guys: Grandal, 371; Rizzo, 387; McNeil, 384;
Mm-hmm.
Donaldson. I think he's got some good on base guys. My best value for him, honestly. Did people forget Sonny Gray went off last year?
Yeah.
At $14, he was
Yeah.
11-8 last year, 200 strikeouts, had a 2.87 ERA, and maybe he was a one-hit wonder, I don't know, but for $14, I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
And you know what? This is not going to be on a lot of people's radar. I was hoping to maybe scoop him up before people realize this. Maybe I can submit a trade offer before he sees this. His best value is it's Mitch Keller for $1, but the main guy I'm thinking of is Cesar Hernandez for $1. Cesar Hernandez is going to hit leadoff for the Cleveland Indians. For the Cleveland Indians, he's going to hit in front of Lindor and Jose Ramirez. So Cesar Hernandez is going to have like 120 run pace. He's going to have a 20 stolen base pace, and he got him for $1.
I'd put him in over Andrus right now. Yeah, I'd put him in over Andrus right now because Elvis Andrus is not an on-base guy at all, and I think he's a little overrated in a lot of circles. But that's my opinion. But yes, go ahead. Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. His pitching staff, Jay's pitching staff, is great. He's got two closers in is Archie Bradley the closer in Arizona? Yeah, he's a closer in Arizona. Yep. Colome is closer in with the White Sox, and he's got 5 very good starters. Depending on what he gets out of Mitch Keller, I think this is probably the best pitching staff in the league. And I'm gonna go straight up say it. I'm giving him an A+ draft grade. I think he had a phenomenal. He had a phenomenal draft. I can't find a weakness on his team. Maybe his outfielders are a little weak, but his pitching staff is really good. Yeah. And I don't see a lot of weaknesses. He's got his stolen bases. He's got the on-base percentage. He's got plenty of power. What's that? 7 guys that are double-digit home runs. And I think he just had a phenomenal draft. I don't see any guys on his team where I was like, I wouldn't have paid that, or any big reaches. So I think in terms of draft, I think he did a phenomenal job.
Love his lineup. Absolutely love his lineup. I don't love his rotation as much as you do. I think Griffin Canning is a little bit of a question mark right now. The Angels
kind of glossed over.
Yeah, the Angels have yet to have a great starting pitcher in a while. It's been a while since the Angels have had a stud pitcher.
But he's also got Luzardo and Gore.
Right, and Mitch Keller too. I know he's a Pirate fan, but Mitch Keller, I know he's a top prospect. He had 50 innings last year. He got lit up last year, absolutely torched. And does Giolito continue what he did last year? Giolito has not been great heading into last year. He's not been that great. So I actually have a few question marks at the rotation. I know I said Sonny Gray was the greatest value, but again, there's been some seasons Sonny Gray has kind of fallen off when he was in Oakland as well, or in New York. Yeah. So I'm curious.
I think he will lead the league in strikeouts, though.
Okay. Yeah, so it's tough for me. I went B for Jay. I wasn't as high on his team as you. I do think there is still some question marks in that rotation, but overall I do like his team a lot. I do think he's going to be in contention. Even his bench with Yandy Diaz, I think that's a nice bench piece. He said Cesar Hernandez. So overall, I like his team. I give it a B. You gave it an A+. That's your best. That's going to be your best grade of the draft.
It is. It
is. We're on our last team now. Angels in the Trout Field. I like that name. That is our buddy Justin Thinger, correct?
Yep.
All right, Justin Thinger, tell me what you got for best value.
All right, best value, Mookie Betts for 39. I thought that was an incredible value for Mookie Betts. He should be a guy that's in the 45 range, up there with some of the guys. It was kind of weird. We didn't really have those like $40 to $50 players. It seemed like they were either like in the low to mid 30s, or they were 55 for Trout, or 47 for Yelich, whatever they went for. And I think it's like 47 for Yelich, 47 for Acuna. But there weren't those like high 30s, low 40s guys, which is what he should have fallen into. So I think he got incredible value with Mookie Betts at 39.
I'll say Miguel Sano, and I know sometimes he's a hit or miss player, but at $7, you're getting a guy last year that again
Hmm.
played about a little bit more than half a year, had 34 home runs last year. I know he's not going to be a huge average
Yeah.
guy, still projected for a
Mhm.
350 on base, projected for 14 home runs, 34 RBIs. $7 getting that type of power.
Yeah.
How do you pass that
Yep.
up? The other thing
Yep.
too is
He's on the short list.
if Bichette continues what he did last year in a very small sample size, Bo Bichette at 15 could be one of the best shortstops in baseball this year. Okay.
Yeah.
And at
He could have a better season than
$15,
Tatis.
yeah, and at $15, yeah, he could very well have a better season than Tatis, and he went for double the price. I
Hmm.
really like Bichette at $15. I think Merrifield for me was the reach a little bit.
Yeah.
He's getting a little bit older. He's not going to hit home runs. He'll help you out in steals a little bit, but he's kind of balanced in steals. I think Justin's going to do all right in steals regardless. I think Whit
Hmm.
Merrifield at 23, he could have saved some of that money and put that in some of his pitching.
Yeah, I know. I was on the phone with him during the draft, and Whit Merrifield was one of his guys. He was happy to get him, but yeah, $23 is definitely a reach. Yeah, I think he does need those 8 stolen bases if he wants to be above the middle of the pack in stolen bases. So
Sure.
I think he'll help him there to help him in the on base percentage. But Whit Merrifield, he's getting a little bit older too. I don't know how many stolen bases he has left in him, so we'll have to see about that.
Sure.
I think I like some of his power that he's got. He's definitely got some guys that are going to hit a lot of home runs.
Right.
He's got plenty of power on his team. He's got plenty of a high on base percentage. But yes, his pitching staff leaves a lot to be
A
desired.
lot. I think
His
he's in
pitchers
trouble.
don't strike. Yeah, his pitchers don't strike anyone out. And they're going to have some pretty high ERAs. If he leaves Tyler Chatwood even in for 1 or 2 starts, he could kill him in
Yeah.
whip. He
Yeah.
walks so many guys and he gives up so many hits.
And he doesn't
So
have
he's
the
got
option to put any other guys in, really. I mean, his bench,
yeah.
Fears, Freeland, Porcello, these are all high ERA
Mhm.
guys. And if you
Yep.
look at their innings pitched, they're not strikeout guys either. Fears and Freeland are not strikeout guys. Porcello
Yeah.
doesn't average 9 Ks per inning. And Stroman, I
Yep.
love him personally as a player, but not a
Yeah.
great fantasy pitcher. 70 innings,
No,
58
not
Ks.
at
He's
all.
contact. Nola is either going to Nola has to have a Cy Young type season, I think personally, for Justin to compete in the pitching categories.
Yeah, and I don't see it from Aaron Nola. I don't put him in the Cy Young category. I put Nola almost outside the top 10
And
pitchers.
let's
I
not
don't
forget
consider him in that
Carrasco.
top tier.
Yeah, let's not forget Carrasco was awful last year. I know he was dinged up
He
at
was
first.
well. He was coming off leukemia, so
Yes,
it does not saying it helps his cause. Not saying it hurts his cause, but that's
right.
definitely a giant concern,
I mean,
giant
for the
question mark.
price, I even remember during the draft, for the price at $9, with what Carrasco used to be, sure. Carrasco is your number two, though, not so sure. And that's the
Yeah.
question with that. So overall, for me, I think Justin, again, like you said, I think he's got one of the best lineups in the entire thing.
Hmm.
But in rotisserie, and again, this is my first time doing rotisserie myself, and I'm probably going to learn the hard truth of this as well. In a head-to-head, he might get away with winning 5, 6 categories a week
Hmm.
in offense. Rotisserie, I don't see it. I think he might get shellacked a little bit on the pitching categories, and that's why I'm giving him a C for a draft grade, because I love his hitting, but I wish he would have given maybe the Whit Merrifields and a couple of these
Yeah.
other higher price boys, maybe even a Gallo, and put that into pitching.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think having Rowan Wick in there, the only
Yeah,
chance
we
you
didn't
have
even
of
talk
getting
about that.
Rowan Wick in there is if he's coming in for Tyler Chatwood in the 5th inning and he can pick up that win. That's about the
Right.
only value that Rowan Wick provides, because I don't think he's one of the top tier closers. I don't know, maybe Justin's got high expectations for him. I just mean relievers, not closers. He's not one of the top tier relievers. And Ian Kennedy, he's a low tier closer on a bad Kansas City
How many
team.
wins are they going to have in 60 games? 15? 20?
Yeah, so
I
I don't
mean,
know. Yeah, and typically some of those worst teams, when they do win their games, because they win 5-1 or 12 to 12 to
right.
6 or something. They're not always saved chances. Zach Britton, he could be out of a job within the first week. So he's got some weaknesses in his rotation. He's only got one closer, and it's really like 3/4 of the closer. I don't even know how
Sure.
to consider him a full closer in Ian Kennedy, and he's going to hurt you in ERA and WHIP more than likely. So I think he definitely needs to get on the line with David, his brother-in-law, and needs to get some of David's pitching and maybe give up some of his depth. Like I said, I like his offense. He's got a lot of power.
Yeah.
I gave him a C, just because of how many holes he's got.
I think he could get. I think I'm not a huge d'Arnaud fan. I think he could get away with trading a Gary Sanchez throw in Darno, get away with trading a Gary Sanchez or maybe a Miguel Sano. I know he got him for the cheap, but just to get some pitching
Yeah.
personally. But
Yep.
who knows? But
I
overall,
agree.
I gave him a C as well. I know I don't want to keep you here too long. You got to get going soon. But any kind of last thoughts you got?
So I will give my predictions for
Sure.
who I think the winners of the league will be. Obviously, by my draft grade, I think that Jay is going to come out on top. I really like his team. I think if his pitching staff turns out, I think that he's going to be in great shape. I think his offense is top 3 in the league. He's up there with some of the ones I mentioned, and there's no real holes in his offense. In second place, I'm going to have myself because I'm really good at coming in second place in fantasy leagues. It's kind of what I do best. Peter knows this the best. He's always knocking me into second place. So that's kind of my thing. It's kind of my claim territory. And then in third, I like Dana's team. I think that Dana's got a pretty high ceiling. He's got that solid balanced offense. His rotations, he's got 4 really good starters. Some question marks at the 5th starter spot. But overall, I think his team is very balanced.
Yeah, for me it's tough. I think Jay's team's in there. I know I didn't give him as high as grade as you did, but I think I had a lot of teams around a B. It's tough for me to really look at this as much as you because you've done a few auctions to kind of see. I didn't really give any super high grades. I gave a couple lower ones, but I will say I think I like Jay's team a lot. I do. I like Dana's team a lot. I actually like your dad's team quite a bit too. Team Special K. I think that team's very well rounded, high on base percentage guys. The Shane Bieber, Fried, Scherzer are going to carry that team quite a bit as well. It's tough for me to say who's going to necessarily win the entire thing, but I overall like those 3 teams quite a bit. I think some teams are really struggling in some areas, but again, another team I also like a lot is Eddie's team. I think Eddie Mazur's team's pretty good. If we get a bounce back year from Kluber, I think Eddie's team ain't too bad.
He's got a lot of veteran pitchers. He's gonna need their last best 60 innings they got in them.
Right, and that's the thing too with me is predicting rotisserie is different too. It's a completely different prediction. I mean, it's you can look at head to head and go, okay, I think they're going to win X amount of categories a week, and you can't necessarily do that here. So it's really tough in that regard.
And
so
that's the thing I like about it. You're going to be able to look at your team and know what your weaknesses are. You're going to be say I'm 10th in stolen bases, or I'm 4th in ERA, or I'm 1st in RBIs, and I got a 20 RBI gap on the next person. I'm going to give up Jose Abreu and go get some stolen bases or go get some pitching or whatever it is.
And here's the thing too. In a 60-game season, you can't wait too long to make that move either.
No.
I mean, in a 162-game season, you could be sitting there May or June and go, you know what, I need some steals. You can't do 10, 15 games
and
in.
If a guy gets hurt, you got to fill that spot.
Yep. At 10, 10, 15 games in, if your team has 2 steals and you're last, you need to make that move now. There's no time to wait. There's no time to wait at all. So in terms of that, do we want to give like a worse team grade, or are we going to stay away from that?
Let's stay away from that. We won't throw too much. Maybe next year. We don't want to throw
too much shade. Let me ask you this. I know you said you got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
How much difference? We can kind of give an overview of next year. I know we're talking about this year right now, but how different does the strategy and the draft look next year with it being a dynasty league? Do we see certain younger players go higher? Do we see certain older players kind of people staying away from your experience?
I mean, Madison Bumgarner surely won't go for $20 next year. I don't think it's going to be as large as you might think it is, as a disparity as you might think it is. I think some of the younger guys, people still buy in because we always like the mystery box. As the Family Guy quote, you can have this boat or you can have the mystery box. And so many people like the mystery box of the young guys. Well, I think they can do this. I think Bo Bichette can do this. I think Fernando Tatis could do this over a full season. And they ignore those veterans, even though they know it's redraft. You pointed out so many of those pitchers that pitched so well last year, those Mike Miners, those Lance Lynns, and the guys that are in that category that, well, I'm just saying that their prices were so low this year.
In the
redraft format, as opposed to some of the young guys like Frankie Montas, who goes for 18. And he's only got like 10 starts on his career. So I don't think it'll be too different. I still think that that draft, people tend to target the younger guys, ignore the veterans a little bit. So I think we're going to see the same thing next year.
And that's why I'm wondering because I see some Joe Adells. I saw Wander Franco on a team right now, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting here thinking like there's a possibility they come up. But I
Yeah,
personally I know you do too. I keep track of prospects a lot. I keep track of the top
yeah.
100 lists. I keep track of the top 20 prospects from the Cubs
Mhm.
in particular. I'm very big on prospects. I love it. I love to know the guys that are coming up. I've noticed some Joe Adells and Wander Francos on teams this year. Did you put much stock at all? And I know your young up and coming players in such a shortened season. Did you put much stock at all into the well he could do something, or did you put more stock into the I know he can do this?
I did put stock into the young guys. And the reason why is typically in the rookie years, and we've seen this in the past, guys who come up tend to perform. The only exceptions really were Carter Keyboom last year, and I still ended up with him on my team this year. But if you want Carter Keyboom, the trade lines are open. But I think that you look at some of the some of the rookie pitchers, they tend to come up and pitch really well in spurts because guys haven't figured them out yet. And then once they get to their sophomore year, they tend to slow down. So I just think that some of those, I like some of those rookies, and it's only going to take 1 year to get a 1 week to get that extra year of service time. So it's like 7 games or something. And then like I know guys like Nate Pearson, who I got, some of those others, I like their outlooks because I think they're going to get the call. And after
Nate
that week,
Pearson,
they get
he's
the
got some
extra.
heat too. Nate Pearson's good. The
Yeah,
Blue Jays,
he
I
lives in
don't.
the hundred.
Yeah, I don't want to get too off topic, but Nate Pearson, Alec Manoah on the Blue Jays, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero, Biggio, the Blue
It's an
Jays,
intriguing
and
team.
yeah, in a year and a half, 2 years, I think the Blue Jays are going to be like the White Sox of this year.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. We do have still some time left. You said you had to get going here in a few minutes. Real quick, Kyle, just for fun, I want to hear it. Let's put it out on the record. The White Sox have played the Cubs the last couple days.
Yes.
White Sox fans are getting pretty,
They're
you know,
getting pretty.
they're they're getting big for their britches here, and
Yeah.
me and you remember the feeling being Cubs fans.
Uh-huh.
2014, 2015, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. A 60-game season, anything can happen. What is
Yeah.
your take on how Chicago baseball is going to look this year?
I think the Chicago White Sox fans are getting way too ahead of themselves. I don't think their pitching is where it needs to be. They're going to need some good bullpen performances. I know they got some guys they like in the bullpen, and Colome and Bummer and some of those other guys, but their back end of the rotation is not good. And I know with Gio Gonzalez in their rotation, Keuchel's in their rotation, and I don't know what to expect out of Cease, but I think if they're expecting all those guys to have sub 4 ERAs and to be lights out and their
Sure,
offense to be tops in the league, I think there's a rude awakening because I think they are an average offense. I mean, they're still going to be starting like Luis Garcia on a regular basis and
sure.
guys like that. So I think there's a reason for optimism, but I don't think they're in the same class as the Cubs. I got pretty high expectations for the Cubs this year. I still think that the blue and red are still going to win the Crosstown Cup this year.
And here's my thing too, and I've brought this up in the past when the Cubs kind of struck gold in 2015. People forget nobody really people projected them kind of what the White Sox are now, around a 500 team, and they
Mm-hmm.
surprised and won as many games as it did. The Cubs got very lucky in the sense that almost every player they called up in 2015 immediately produced. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking Schwarber when he had to come up in DH and when he started coming up. Addison Russell, Rizzo and Bryant started hitting their stride. A lot of these guys in 2015, a lot of these young guys, not to mention our nasty rotation that we had, but a lot of the young guys just clicked right away. That does
Mm-hmm.
not always happen in Major League Baseball. We
Yeah.
saw Dylan Cease get lit up last year. Kopech down with an injury. We see some Mitch Keller on the Pirates got lit up, top prospect still. The
Mm-hmm.
Pirates gave up on a Tyler Glasnow after 20 innings of Major League pitching
Yeah.
and traded him off. So
Mm-hmm.
not every highly touted prospect comes up and just starts raking or killing it at the major league level. And the Cubs, I think, got a little lucky in the sense that they all kind of clicked together. The
Mm-hmm.
White Sox, there's going to be some young growing pains, I think, with the White Sox. So I'm kind of with you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Around a 500, I'd be optimistic about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's realistic.
but like I said, couple more minutes. Is there any last things, whether fantasy, baseball? Is there anything last? I know anything you want to throw out there?
Ah, I think that just about covers it.
All
Unless you
right.
have any more Cubs rants that you need to get off
Um,
your chest.
yeah, I try to stay as unbiased as possible with my teams. I'm pretty hard on the Bears a lot. It's harder. It's a little bit harder for me to be hard on the Cubs. Here's my thing: if we get the Darvish from the tail end of last year, I feel like with a shortened 60-game season, I think weirdly, you can say this for a lot of teams. I think a shortened 60-game season could go 25 wins for the Cubs or 35 wins. I'm more gearing towards 35 wins,
Mhm.
but it's not guaranteed, and the division is tougher. Some people are really high in the Cardinals. I kind of stray away from that. I'm actually more worried about uh,
I'm gonna say we need to stop doubting the Cardinals because I
yeah,
I'm
that's
just I
true.
caught myself making a face there and I was like, yeah, I'm not too happy with the Cardinals. Then I'm like, wait a second, they're the
Right.
Cardinals. They do everything right, and
Yeah,
I hate the Cardinals, but I respect them because they're
right.
just always good.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is. They're kind of like the Patriots of baseball. It's just they're one of those teams that can bring anybody up and they just start doing well and you could never have heard of them in your life. And it's so
Hmm.
frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it for me. I'm excited for baseball to come back. It's a 60-game season. Last question, actually, real quick. Is there a little bit of an asterisk for you on who wins the title this year?
No, I don't think there is. And the same thing goes with the NBA. I think that it'd be an asterisk if one team had to take a different path to win than another. But the playing field's level for everyone. So I
Sure.
don't see why there would be an asterisk near anyone. And some people are saying the way the games are stacked up and some of the travel and stuff, it's gonna be harder than normal season. They have
Right.
less days
Sure.
off. And so
Yeah.
I no asterisk at all.
All right, sounds good, Cal. Well, I'm excited. I know everyone else is
All
excited to
right.
get this going, and yeah, that's about it. Welcome to the first year of the uh,
The
league,
boys
and
of summer, yeah.
the Boys of Summer League should be a fun time. So, yeah, take care,
All right.
everybody,
Thanks.
and we'll have a
Thanks for
fun
coming,
season.
Eric.
Yep, for sure. You too, man.
All right, bye bye.
Later.